Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show tonight. We are 20 sides to every story, and we are this month celebrating 5 years of being a channel. And so we've been doing some different programming this month to sort of commemorate the anniversary. Big thing that we've been doing is we've been playing some games and doing some streams related to our new community campaign, which is a campaign that we're running for really anybody who is a part of our community or anybody that enjoys watching the streams and wants to get in on a game. We've got all sorts of games that are out there. I think games are pretty well full for this month at this point, but we also will have more games just about every month. We've got 6 DMs. We're kind of co-creating a campaign to allow as many people as possible to come in and join us for a game. So if you haven't done so already, if you're just stopping by for the first time, checking us out, trying to figure out what we're all about, come join us in the Discord server. That's where you can not only jump into the community campaign, sign up for a game, you can also just chat with us, hang out with us in between the streams, ask us questions, just in general, kind of enjoy our shared love of D&D, TTRPGs, and all that sort of stuff. Thank you all out there in the chat for coming to hang out with us here tonight. What we're doing here, I'm joined here by my dad, Cliff, and Jenna, and we decided we've done some different things in the past to kind of celebrate our anniversaries, but we've never done really a celebration of the art. And both Cliff and Jenna have done tremendous work over the years, creating a lot of the art that you see on screen, graphics for the channel to kind of help the production side of things, but also character art and just things for fun that maybe were inspired by a funny scene that happened in one of our games or something like that. So we're very lucky, I guess, to have such talent with us, and so I invited them both on here to talk about some of the stuff that they've created over the years and maybe dig into some of the stories of those pieces of art and kind of help us to tell the story, I guess, of the channel and its evolution over the past 5 years. So I think I'm going to ask you both maybe the same question. I'm going to have you both maybe introduce yourselves. Why don't you just tell us about kind of like how you got started with the channel, and maybe how you got started in RPG art. When did you start, drawing things inspired by D&D games, or whatever you want to say about that? So I'll pick on you first. I always say Cliff, but even though he's my dad, and then people get confused, they're like, is that guy related to you? But Cliff, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
What do you mean as it relates to the RPG art here?
Sure.
Yeah, I've always been an artist, and I've always had a love for. I got into art because I like to do, like comic books or fantasy and that type of art. And when you got involved with the role-playing games, I started searching some freelance opportunities in the role-playing games, and I did a few role-playing books, some one-shot type freelance jobs, but then I got started doing some for Goodman Games, and he's had me do artwork regularly for the last 18 years now. Since 2004, I believe.
So I want to jump in and correct the narrative there a little bit, because I think you got it a little wrong. You started working for Goodman Games and doing some freelance for them, and you were producing art for their Dungeon Crawl Classics product line, which at that time, back in mid 2000s, there was no such thing as Dungeon Crawl Classics, the game system. It was just Dungeon Crawl Classics. It was an adventure module series for 3.5 D&D. And so my memory, or what I remember, is that you would get all the contributor copies from all of those books that you had art in, and the big stacks. They're all lying like the bottom of my shelf now, collecting dust. But there was all this backlog of free product that you got. And that was when I started playing D&D, kind of really for the first time, probably starting around 2012, 2013. There were all those free books were sitting around, and so that's what we cut our teeth on. And as far as D&D, no, no. Not really. I played a little bit in high school, but I wasn't really DMing or, my friend Brian Busha was somebody who...
Not on the channel.
Not on the channel, no.
Yeah.
So. But
you had your high school friends over at the house playing.
Yeah, like I said, once in a while, but we weren't D&D geeks or anything. Like we played. I probably can count on one hand the number of times that we played any sessions over at the house. So
the time that you started playing in the basement there, I think it was one of the what do you call it, the where you funnel, yeah.
One of the first thing on the channel was a DCC funnel. Yep.
Yeah. And when was that? Was that around 2014 or 15?
Well, let's see. 5 years ago was what, 2017? Time is eluding you.
Oh yeah, we can we
have a timestamp on that. We can see.
Oh.
2017.
Yep. So that game down in that funnel that we played down in the basement at my parents' house. I was still living at my parents' house at that time, and that was A Hole in the Sky. Was that module?
Yeah, I thought for whatever reason I thought that was longer ago than that, but
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, well, memory's a funny thing, It
is a funny thing. So, what about? Now, do you remember how did you find Goodman Games? How did you start doing some of that work?
I believe I found some ads online, if I remember correctly. That they were looking for artists at that time. So I think a lot of the artists that they have, quite a few of them, probably have been illustrating for that long, or maybe even some of them longer. I don't think Goodman Games actually started too much before 2004. I don't know if they started around 2001 or 2002, somewhere around there.
That seems right. It's probably somewhere around there. I know. I don't know when officially the company started, but they had some kind of obscure stuff, like the Bronchosaurus Rex. I think that was Joseph Goodman's first system, maybe. Jenna would love it because Jenna has a fondness for dinosaurs and all that. We'll play Bronchosaurus Rex at some point.
Hell yeah.
So why don't we turn over to you, Jenna, and talk a little bit about just like how you came to find the channel and start getting involved with 20 Sides, and then tell us about kind of maybe when did you start? Let's just keep it general. Like, when did you start, like, as an artist and like getting to the point that you're at now, where obviously you have a kind of a distinct style and whatnot.
Okay. First question. I joined 20 Sides through Isaac. He's the one who found you guys first. So our story is pretty thoroughly linked. I more kind of jumped on for the ride, and he was the one who's like, no, come on, like, you should totally join. And I was like, I don't know, like, sure, whatever. So I was like more like dismissive about it. I was like, okay, sure, I'll support this. But I was also like, because I knew he was watching you guys for Descend into Avernus, and I was like, I'm not gonna get like spoiled on anything, right? Like, because we're playing the game. I think that was like my main thing, is like I didn't want to like start watching and then like accidentally like kind of like dip into something I shouldn't have. But yeah, we found, or he found the channel when we were just kind of starting in learning to play D&D, because I started I first learned about it in community college in 2015, I want to say 2014. And that only lasted for like a few weeks. We were learning about it for a project. Funny enough, we were designing a Zork style game. I'm not good at coding now. Like, it was, I wanted to go into game art and game design. So I was like, oh, maybe like learning programming will help, because they mix together. And then after that stopped, and I changed what I was studying. And after like I met Ike, he mentioned improv, and I was like, oh, you'd probably like Dungeons and Dragons, because there was a lot of improv in that. And then that kind of snowballed. As for kind of art and how that kind of started, honestly, it's kind of hard to say. Whenever I asked my mom about it, she's like, as long as I can remember, you were holding some sort of like crayon or marker or pen or something. So I just kind of was always doodling in some fashion. I even, if you don't mind me getting up to show you, I actually have something. My mom framed it, and then I ended up with it somehow. Probably when I was like, I don't know, probably when I was like 5 or 4. I was really young, so I never like took it out of the frame or anything. But this is like one of my like, God, it's so dusty, my earliest things. It is I think the background might blur it. Yeah. The blur doesn't help. Let me get rid of that really quick. Oh, sorry, let me fix it. My computer's being slow.
While Jenna's getting that queued up here, Cliff, you got any of your childhood art that you're gonna pull up and show us? Oh, very nice.
Right, it's very hard to see, but it's like a crayon dinosaur. So, as you mentioned, dinosaurs have a special place in my heart, and that's kind of how I started. As I got into like games and stuff, it evolved from there, and when I found D&D, it kind of was like a natural fit from like video games and stuff like that. That's about it.
I could show you a piece of art. It's the first art I ever got printed in a fanzine.
Yeah, let's see it. You got it?
It's over there someplace.
And those of you in the chat here, if you ever have any questions or topics that you'd like us to address, pop them in there. Or maybe Alex's, Percy says, I do still have some. Okay, while you guys are in the Discord, maybe later, if I'm feeling brave, I'll post some really terrible things that you could make fun of later.
We'd never make fun of it.
You will.
It only comes from a pure place of happiness.
I think one of the things that I have is like a map. I think I posted it maybe on 20 Sides at one point, but it's like a map that I made. I must have been like 5 or 6 years old, is my guess, based on how bad it is. But there's definitely like a couple of like kind of curved hills too, right next to each other. Totally looks like an ass, and it just says like the Black Mountain or the Dark Mountain or something euphemistic. Yeah, I'll post those for you.
That's awesome.
Okay, for anyone who's not familiar with fanzines, they're little publications printed and made by fans, and most of these that I was involved in were because of comic books, fans of comic books, and this was one that was published actually by my cousin. And
Sarcophagus.
That's super cool.
This was Sarcophagus #1. This was drawn by it was a sketch from an actual pro who drew the Hulk in the comic books, and he put that on the front cover. And then on the back cover, he put my drawing of the Hulk.
And how old were you when you did that?
What's that?
I said, how old were you when you did that?
This was in 1971, so I would have been about 14.
So I think the commonality there is that typically these things emerge pretty young, that interest in creative pursuits or art and that sort of a thing. So very cool. Well, why don't we and I saw that comment in the chat about why don't we have Dave on here. That's probably a good thought or a good call. Maybe I need to get Chris Jones and Dave both on here to tell us something about miniature paint, or maybe even Tux. Tux does a lot of miniature painting too. Do a miniature painting stream sometime. That'd be fun. Well, I'm gonna switch us over to a different view here so we can actually look at some of the things that you all have created over the years, and yeah, sort of maybe see if we can even remember where these things originated is probably part of the challenge here. So first thing that I have popped up, or the first couple of images that I have here are, so I think when you have a talent like the two of you have, and you're going to create a D&D character, you almost always illustrate your own character. I mean, even I, who doesn't have any talent, will probably etch some little thing in the margin of the page or whatever. You know, in the old school D&D sheets, you would always get that little box that said draw character portrait or whatever. You're supposed to draw something there. And so the two of you, I noticed, had a lot of art of your own characters that we've seen on the streams over the years. So I'm starting here first with some of the characters that you, Dad, have played. So I'm going to test you to see, do you remember who these characters are, what their name is, what their race and class is, and what campaign are they from? Now, who's this guy?
That is Krusty. And he was a druid, I believe, and humid. And he had a specialty, the spore special. So that's why he has a mushroom cap on.
This was the one I wasn't certain that you'd remember, because I don't think you played him for too many sessions. So I think he was from the original community campaign.
I believe he was a replacement of one of my other characters that died. If I remember right.
I can't remember who the character is that would have died, but yeah, I think that's right. That sounds right. So, so is this is done? This is a pencil?
Yeah, that was just pencil.
And do you do a lot of pencil art, or are you doing more things more on the computer first? digitally?
I don't. I don't usually do. If I use the computer, it's usually to add color. I don't do a lot of stuff that's directly into the computer.
All right, here's this next one. We know this guy. This is Galileo, the Furbolg Druid. Is Druid like a favorite class for you too? Are artists just naturally? Because I know Jenna's a Druid fanatic. You've played a lot of Druids over the years, I feel like.
Druids are one of my favorite classes to play, yes. And this one was sketched, but the color work was all done on the computer. But I did have a base sketch that I went by when I scanned it into the computer and then started painting in the color.
And this one,
Galileo. This was Greech, and this was also. I actually did a full line drawing of this first, but then I scanned it into the computer, and I basically eliminated most of the lines, the line work by adding the color. I've been trying to add a lot the color in that and get the color right. This one came out pretty good, but I think Galileo, as far as the color went, probably even came out better as far as the color work went. It looked more painted better.
Yeah, I think this was campaign, one of Corey's first campaigns that he was running for us was the Eberron Adventures League
campaign. Greech was was a fighter, and he basically was their tank, and I think I frustrated Corey sometimes because Greech got built with such a high AC that he was hard to hit sometimes with some of the characters.
Well, I think I was playing the Artificer that was doing infusions to bump up your AC as well, because I was giving you the pluses on your armor and whatnot.
You did help me get that AC up there even higher. It was incredible. That was the highest AC I ever had on a character was from Breach.
Was it like 23 or 24 at the end?
It was, yeah, it was in that range, depending on whether I had my shield up or not. But
and how about this one?
Now I've been using that image, but I'm having a hard time remembering what I drew, what the character was that I drew before.
Jenna, do you remember what he sounded like?
No, but it's funny, like, I think this was probably the first one of Cliff's that I saw. This one and Krusty. Or the Spore Druid. I don't think was it Krusty? Is that what his name was?
Yeah, Krusty. Yeah.
Okay.
So this one I'm pretty sure was a human, or a dwarf cleric who talked really sorry.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Helibet from Lost City.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
And this is your character. I believe you're currently playing on Monday nights.
Yes, this is Wirt, the Changeling, and oddly enough, this Changeling only changes into characters from Bill and Ted's movies. Now this is what Mert actually looks like, but as far as I remember, I don't think I've ever revealed to any of the other players in the game what I actually look like, because I've always been changed into one of Bill and Ted's characters from the movies.
So these are all the characters I believe that I have at least focused up on here. But do you have some inspirations or some aesthetics from other artists that you would point to and say, like, that's something that I adapted because I like this other artist style? Or I know you did a lot of like comic book art back in the day. Are there some comic book artists that you turn to when you're looking for like inspiration on a project, or things that you've incorporated into your style over the years?
I don't know, not so much the color work, but if you see my line work and you know comic book artists, you might be able to see my influence from an artist called Bernie Wrightson, who was known for drawing horror characters like Frankenstein, and he actually drew an incredibly detailed book of Frankenstein, and it had a wraparound cover which recently sold for over $1 million. But he was a big influence in some of my artwork. Unfortunately, he has passed away a couple of years ago, but
very cool.
It's funny, like when you like gave that name drop, I was like, I don't think I know that. So I went to look it up, and it is like, so, like now that you've said it, it's like so like totally obvious. Like this is the dude that inspired you. It's like so cool.
Well, if you've seen my line work, he is the first artist that drew the character Swamp Thing. If you ever seen any of those, yeah, he is the original creator of that character, Swamp Thing.
Oh, that's crazy.
So I see at least one question. Cliff, I don't know if you're comfortable answering this question, but I'll ask it and see if you're comfortable answering it. What's the most that you've, maybe we'll say, what's the most you've made off of the sale of a drawing? Or commission?
I'm not famous like Bernie Wrightson, so mine is not going to go for $1 million. The most I remember selling a piece of art for was a couple $100, but
you haven't you attend some art shows. You've never actually set up a booth or anything, though. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Well, it depends on what shows you're talking about. I have gone to
you have, okay,
comic book shows where I actually was at a booth a couple times in Chicago at the Comic-Con there. And I have very early, I went to a couple of fine art shows where I tried to sell some artwork, but that was long time ago, and I did actually get a small award at one of them.
Well, I've got now some things that Jenna has put together over the years for her own character. So, oh wait, sorry. I guess I stuck this guy in there quick. You remember this one?
Oh yeah. Oh jeez.
It was Shaggy. It was Guy LaBelle's little companion. Yeah.
I love his chin. It's like the opposite of Guy LaBelle's chin.
Yeah. So this is, I think, what was that?
But he wanted to have a look like Guy LaBelle. He wanted to be like Guy LaBelle.
Let's see. Percy has a question. Does Cliff still collect comics? If so, does he have a favorite?
I have a bunch in my closet, but I haven't bought any regularly for quite a while. I do have all the first issues that Bernie writes and drew of his Swamp Thing comic. So those are probably some of my favorite.
So Jenna, turning to some of your character art here, this is Pico. I think it's the first character I remember.
Yeah, it's not my first. I don't think it's my first character on the channel, but I think the first time you DM'd me, or like as like in a game DM, is when you were doing the Lost City. And so I just this was also my first character that I kind of made like on my own too, and this is the character that like me that I would play when me and Ike were learning how to play. We would DM each other back and forth. So he would have his character, and then I'd have my character, and whenever each of us were DMing, we'd have our character kind of be like the support, and then like let each other kind of figure stuff along the way. And of course, like when I was like learning everything, I was like looking up all like the crazy stuff, and I was like, Druid, okay, that sounds like something I would like they're like all naturey, and like they could like shapeshift and like do magic. That sounds like fun. Talking frog, sure, let's go talking frog for the character. Like that sounds fun too. And so like just kind of went totally ham, like just looking up everything. And yeah, I brought him into the community campaign.
I like this character. I remember you playing him.
So I was always curious. Did you ever play the game Chrono Trigger?
Funny enough, no. You're talking about because one of the companions is a frog, right?
Yeah, there's a character in Chrono Trigger that spoiler alert. Game that was on the Super Nintendo was cursed and turned into a frog. And was like a knight, and I don't know, he kind of this character reminds me of him a little bit. The detail that reminds me of him is not just that he's a frog, but the little water splash is very reminiscent of the animation. His spell casting, each character in that game had an element, and his was water, and like his little water attacks kind of had a very similar aesthetic to the little splash coming out of.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, I've never played, but like I've always either wanted to try playing it or like watch someone else play. So, but like I do know of it. But yeah, Pico was a lot of fun. He was like my first kind of deep dive into D&D, and when I figured out about the Lost City community campaign, I was like, oh, well, I have this character. I don't mind it. Like, I'll just use him because like I already had art for it already, and I was like comfortable enough, like I knew the character well enough that it would be pretty easy to slip into them and slip in and out to like for talking and like doing character stuff. So I was like, okay, that'll be an easy place to start. It was a lot of fun.
So we know this character.
Oh yeah. Very recent, Lim Green.
Yeah, so this is your current character in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So with this one has a very distinct, like, where do you go like when you're starting to create a character? Because I feel like you know, even looking at Pico's got some very, I would say you always like add, one thing I noticed with your art is you always like add one or two little like twists or like little maybe item or a little accessory or something that's like a little bit unique to that character. Like this could have easily just been a frog druid, but they're carrying a shovel and they've got a little tree branch kind of hanging off of, you know, a thread around their neck. This one you know, the mushrooms growing off the top of its head, the really long shaggy hair. Like, where do you go to like come up with these little nuances or little particularities?
Whenever I start making a character, I'll either, depending if I know what the setting is, I'll try to see like a very surface level kind of or like common knowledge thing about the setting, and work with that. So for example, like while making a character for this community campaign, I was taking a look at the kind of outline, and I was like, okay, I'll make a human from this ethnic background. And so once I did it, and then I would go and do research on that like theme and be like, okay, so like what is like the thing that makes up that main element? And so after I find that theme, I break it down into other things that either like that feed into it or remind me of it, or however I can make that connection, and just kind of go from there. So I usually start from like one theme. And I think for Witchlight, for Lim, what was it? I don't remember what was like that starting theme. But I eventually I settled on going Hexblood, which was like the new race option that came out from Van Richten's. And one of the features that you get from that is the Eerie token, and it says like, oh, the Eerie token is like a piece of hair, something like a fingernail, and you can use it to like speak telepathically with people or like do some remote viewing, something weird. And Hexbloods are like related to hags, and so when I think hags, I think kind of scraggly, long hair. Swamp. I don't know why I think swamp, but swamp came into mind. And so from swamp, I was like, oh, there's lots of mushrooms in swamp, so maybe that's like the thing. And then it just kind of keeps going. And I'll usually do like some drafts. If I like have trouble figuring out exactly what I want to do, I'll like play with shapes and see what I like. And then doing big hair, I guess, was the thing that I thought was the funnest shape of all, so I stuck with big hair for Lynn. And that's how she came to be. And I was lazy on the clothes, so I was like, she's homeless, so like I didn't have to do anything for the clothes, because I was like, I don't know what to do at that point.
It was like serving me up a whole storyline on a platter when you came up with the character. And I obviously, like with the whole Hexblood thing, you know, you didn't necessarily give me like, actually nobody in that campaign really gave me like exactly what like minute, like very specific details about their backstory, which was probably best because we were able to kind of, things could be a little bit flexible in terms of like fitting in your narrative. It was definitely you know, based on the aesthetic of this character and like she does look probably like kind of what we'd think of as a green hag, or hag that dwells in a swamp biome environment. And so there was a temptation at some point to make Bavlorna the hag that was associated as the adoptive mother, but
I think because I mentioned a fear that she had was being controlled, and I think that's why Endolin, I have a feeling that's why she ended up getting picked, is because she fit that fear so well.
Yeah, the fear and the doll piece of it too. The like what the object was a part of it too. So
yeah, it's so funny. Like I had zero idea of like any of that stuff. I was just like, I don't know why hair doll was the thing I picked, or maybe like I asked you for help. Like I don't remember why I picked that, but lack of control, I always like, that's kind of like almost like a go-to fear of mine, because it's not like, oh, I'm afraid of water, and fear of the feeling of loss of control in some way, and like it really does kind of make you feel smaller. So I feel like it really brings out a lot of interesting story points. So whenever I can't think of like a good kind of quirk or fear or something,
all right, just so you know, you're breaking up just a little bit, but I think if we got just a few more here. Here's another one of Lim Green with your golden cloak that you got from Nib's Cave. That's pretty fun.
It's so obnoxious.
And then I'm going to guess, based on how many pictures you have of Yaz, that maybe Yaz probably ranks up there as a either a favorite character or at least a favorite character to draw. Would that be true?
Yeah. Sorry if I'm cutting in and out. I don't know why it's been acting up like this. I think it goes back to like enjoying to draw dinosaurs, because lizard folk kind of have that very kind of dinosaur-esque feel to them. Or like dragons, like dinosaurs, dragons, like things like that. Like I've always enjoyed that sort of thing. And I think Tyranny of Dragons, where I played Yaz, was the first major like campaign I was ever a part of, like from a book like type of campaign. Like first and longest, so it's like it kind of, there was a lot of opportunities to to create some self-made fan art.
Well, I think this one here maybe is like an early concept of, or maybe it just like is that similar profile, but you made some like animated things. So
Yeah.
like, you have an interest in animation as well?
Yeah. Animation kind of, it has this way of forcing you to kind of be consistent, and that's something like I feel like I usually lack is consistency. And so whenever I'm feeling like, all right, I need like, I want to challenge myself to learn something new, it'll either be trying to learn more about animation or trying to learn more about kind of like digital painting, so trying to replicate like that kind of painterly look.
So here we have Yaz, it looks like in some like fancy garb. What is the context from this one?
That was like such a one-off too. Like I think they were in Waterdeep, and they were in like a party for something. Like I don't remember all the details, but basically like they were in Waterdeep. They were like, they had to ask for assistance or something, and they had to like talk sorry, I could see I was kind of coming out there. They had to go to like the upper class, and so they had a chance to kind of like strut their stuff, and so this was kind of like what I vaguely described, but I've never been comfortable like figuring out how to like describe it, because I'm like, oh, usually I could just sketch it out. And so after the game, after I kind of had this idea of what he might have wore, I drew that up.
Now this one is interesting. This is of the things of Yaz, this is the one I definitely wanted to ask about. Is this something that happened in game?
Yes.
All right, tell us the story of this one.
This is one of those times where I was like, okay, I want to try to learn to do more painter stuff. And so it's very rough, but it was my attempt at learning. And we started getting into like the higher level spells and abilities and stuff. And one of them that he had was to summon aberrations. So I was like, I needed something that was long range, and a gazer or like a a beholder type creature was like the only option. So I went with that, and we kind of gave it a very pet-like quality, even though that's something that beholders are totally not. And so he's like, oh, come on, can I keep it? Like, he's so cute. Look, he's like all pink and floaty. And our barbarian was like, no. And Yaz is always doing kind of weird stuff anyway, so it wasn't uncommon to just be like, you're so weird. Like, why do you do these things? And he's just like,
Awesome.
So that was fun.
I think we have here maybe just some more kind of concept things here. So who's Coca?
Coca is his pet rat. I picked for his background urchin. And part of the urchin background is you get a rat. Like, that's one of your background items. So I was like, oh, like, maybe it's like his friend, like, or like maybe he went to go try to eat it, and then they kind of, through his warlock powers or whatever, like, they found a way to be like, okay, I'm not gonna eat you, but like, we'll help each other out. And so Coca just was kind of always around, and sometimes between levels I'd swap out like invocations for beast speech and be able to see if I could like use Coca to like get us some help throughout whatever scenarios, but mostly just a pet.
Here we have some more Yaz in different maybe all the emotions of Yaz, and then Yaz diving into the water.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like going back to like, I just really enjoyed drawing like dinosaurs and dragons and things, and I think at this point I was like really starting to get like kind of figure out like how he was acting, because at the start, I don't really know. It's like I have a vague idea, but eventually it just kind of naturally could become something else. And so at this point I was like, okay, like I think I'm getting him, and so I wanted to do some sketches to kind of make him feel alive, because the previous one, the one with the pink background, that was like my first attempt, and you can see it's like kind of very stiff, like there's not a whole lot to it. But for this one, I have a better understanding of the character, so it's a bit more organic, I guess.
So question that I asked Cliff earlier was tell us a little bit about like your influences, or kind of stylistically some of the things that you'd point to as having an imprint on the style you've developed.
Probably I would say for like kind of like very bright colors and things from like a lot of like games and like shows. So kind of going back to the whole dinosaur thing, like I grew up watching a lot of like Don Bluth, so like Land Before Time and like all that stuff. So like those like kind of animal characters always like really stuck out to me, because that's like what I like would watch like all the time as a kid. And then later on, as I was trying to like kind of learn more, I really like Mobius. He's like a French artist who does like these really crazy sci-fi stuff, and like very like thin but like vivid colors. So I really like him, but definitely a lot from like I would say from like shows and like games, probably like Land Before Time or anything like Don Bluth. I really liked Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like I really enjoyed that show. Hayao Miyazaki movies, like a lot of those have very like bright, colorful, like expressive type characters. So really enjoyed that. And Calvin and Hobbes. Like whenever I start to get more cartoony, a lot of the times I'll think back to Calvin and Hobbes, and like because when they do like get very expressive, they're like super expressive. So I always enjoyed that. I
wouldn't have thought that one, but now that you say that, like I can definitely feel that coming through. And even like some of these Yaz ones a little bit, with the little thought bubbles, I can see it. So we're gonna move next here to some caricatures that we have of various people that are a part of 20 Sides Every Story. This first one, these are some pieces that we had Cliff do when I started doing. I don't know. I guess it was a few months back now. I wanted to do when I was trying to think through like how do we do some things to maybe help one another kind of get to know the people behind characters or behind the DM screen in I don't know, sort of a fun way that isn't like completely tied up in D&D. And so we started doing these community spotlights where we'd ask some of the people that have been around for a while or supported the channel in various ways over the years, and ask them some questions to kind of get to know their interests and such. And my father has some experience, I would say, with doing caricature art. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the background on that and you know, your experience with doing caricature art for people?
Well, I've done caricature art in a couple different areas. Where I worked for 38 years, they would have me do a caricature when somebody would retire or had a big anniversary, and as a going away gift. And they had me, I did many of those over the years. Back in the 90s when a group of the individuals out in the warehouse went over to Desert Storm, they had me do a caricature of each of them as a gift when they came back from Desert Storm. And I heard recently, just when I retired, that one of those guys still works out in the plant and he still has my caricature at his machine from all those years. Plus, back for about 12 years, I did editorial cartoons for the newspaper in town too. And so over the years, I did like 600 editorial cartoons for the newspaper. So I had to do a lot of caricatures during that time of the different politicians that were in my cartoons. There was one project I did for the Post Crescent in Appleton where they did a special insert and they had me draw a caricature of each of the Packer players, so that each page that you turned was a new caricature of another Packer player.
Are you doing all these political cartoons, drawing these local politicians? Do you ever have any awkward, like Larry David type moments with someone at the grocery store that you lampooned or anything like that?
Actually, there were a couple of them that, at least there was 3 of them that actually wanted copies of all the cartoons that they appeared in. So it was actually, you know, it was almost like a, you know, they were proud of them even appearing in the cartoons, even though most of the time it was of a criticism. But they didn't take it that way. They took it very good. Most of them. There were a couple of instances. I think the school board took issue with one of my cartoons, so it wasn't a particular individual, but they didn't like the cartoon.
Well, here we have Winston. What we did was I took the question. There was a question on that survey or poll or whatever you want to call it, questionnaire, I guess. What's your favorite class and or heritage to play in D&D? So we kind of took those, and then I forwarded them on to Cliff to do these art. So he said human cleric. So we didn't make him too, you know, nasty looking or like a Vecna-ite type of cleric. So there he is with a kind of warhammer in hand. Next up we had Ed. I think Halfling Bard was what he had selected there. And then what we did is we took these and then these are ink, right? Like this is just pencil and ink drawings.
Yeah, those are just straight ink line drawings.
So we've been sending these out to the folks as sort of a thank you. I guess thanks for being around for all these years and supporting 20 Sides. Here we have Robin. He was it human cleric? I don't remember exactly. Cleric for sure. I think she played a life cleric maybe in the first campaign I ever played with her. So I always
it was a different type of cleric, more of a healing cleric than a fighting one like Winston.
This next one is probably our most recent one. I think was Casey as a wizard.
Well, the most recent one you've revealed, anyway.
Yeah. I haven't put together the next. Although we've got the art for this. This is a little sneak peek, I guess, as Marine as a half elf, I think, or elf, rogue.
Yeah, half elf, I believe. Yes.
So at some point when I get around to putting it together, I'll post that up in the Discord. So we do all those community spotlights in the Discord server. So if you're just joining us for the first time, definitely come and stop by our Discord. We got lots of things going on there, including ability to sign up for games and post fun stuff like this, like just fun stuff that either happens like this or. Yes, somebody asked about like Gen 2 art. I've got a little bit that I'll show you at the end from some General 2 shenanigans. Those not in the know. Another reason, I guess, to join the Discord is we very much are being earnest when we say come to the Discord and hang out with us in between the streams. Like, I think sometimes we forget to explain what that means, but literally there are people almost every night, literally every night at this point, hanging out in our General 2 voice channel. Why General 2? Well, you have to go there and maybe ask the question and it'll get answered to you. But that's sort of the 20 Sides water cooler / tavern. So you can always pop in there. Feel free to pop in there and talk to us.
Alex, when you were talking with Jenna before about animation, and then she showed that picture of the beholder, do you remember that little animation I did for your creature?
I do.
Feature?
I have something to say about that at some point. But you could spoiler. You can jump ahead. That's fine.
Well, I had forgot all about that, and that reminded me of that when you brought that up. So yeah. I didn't know if you still had that or not.
Well, if anybody wants to see what he's talking about, you can go to our YouTube channel, which I don't know if I have a thing for that to pop up. I do. So you can go to our YouTube channel and look for the creature feature on Boulette, and there's a little 3D animated intro thing to that you could see that Cliff made up. What was that in Blender? Is that the program you use?
Yes, that was my first attempt at making an animation through the Blender 3D program, and then it was over my head, but that was what came about of it. At some point I'd like to try to do some more of that, but.
It was definitely a good first attempt at a project of that scale. I'd asked him kind of to do some kind of a little intro thing, because at one point I thought I was going to maybe produce some more short form little videos like that, like highlighting a creature and its history throughout the editions and how you could use it in a campaign and such. But, life got busy and we're so busy with the actual plays that I never got around to planning those types of videos. But maybe someday we'll return to it, and maybe by that point you'll have more time to take a second stab at intro if you're looking to practice that more. I don't know.
Kudos for giving that a try, because like Blender's great, like it's 3D, and it's so like comprehensive, but like 3D is so hard. Like, it is just crazy. So that's awesome.
You've tried your hand at some 3D art there too, Jenna?
Yeah.
I had been using Blender, but not for animation. Animation's a whole different step in using it. But
totally.
I've got a couple of things that I did where I actually have had something printed. Here, I got... I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, it's the robot from Lost in Space.
I didn't paint this one up, but this is a model that I made in Blender, and I had I sent the file to a place called Shapeways to print it. I do have a 3D printer, but my 3D printer would not be able to print this model.
Well, we got a number of 3D printing enthusiasts too, so maybe we need to do a 3D printing show sometime for you and Dave and whoever else wants to show off the cool things that they're making at home. So let's see. Next up, we're gonna kind of move into some of the art from the I guess what I would say is the original community campaign. So I guess the backstory on the community campaign is it is something that in many ways is an accident, or I would probably say, I don't know that it, I certainly didn't intend for it or design it from the get-go to be what it is today. But I think it was probably early 2019, like January 2019 or so, when, or maybe it was even like December 2018. It was around that time, and I had picked up the Into the Borderlands was the first original Adventures Reincarnated book that Goodman Games did. That's actually two modules that they put together into one book to do sort of a retrospective on those old school modules, but then they did the conversion to 5th edition. And I thought it would be really cool to do Keep on the Borderlands on the channel. And in reading it, I kind of thought, you know, this could be like a really fun thing. Each of these caves could be one adventure, and there's no reason why it has to be like a heavy narrative driven thing. It can be very adventure location focused, and we could probably have people just kind of hop in and out of these games. And so I think the first one was like, I think Duff from Praetor's Rejects, I want to say Winston and maybe Ron were the three players, and I might have that wrong, but I think those were my first three people. And that was the first game. Unfortunately, most of those videos have not survived, and I don't think we had any like custom art. Jenna, you weren't around yet, and Cliff, I don't think I had you do any art from the first like arc of the community campaign, but we do have some things that are... The second one that we did was Isle of Dread, so we have like a couple of Isle of Dread things, and then we definitely have some things from Lost Barrier Peaks and Lost City, which were the third and fourth ones. So this first one, Jenna, you did, and I'm not sure if I knew you exactly. Like, I probably knew your screen name or your handle or whatever on Discord, and that was kind of it. But you drew this sort of unprompted, I think, because you were just watching Isaac play in a game, is what I think is what happened. So do you remember the context of how this came up?
Maybe not all, but I think maybe enough. You got him and the party he was part of. I think it was him, Maureen, him being Isaac. So Isaac, Maureen, maybe Cliff. No, actually, I don't think Cliff was in it.
I think Ed probably was in it.
Yeah, I think maybe Ed, and then I forget who the last person in there was. Maybe Dawson. I don't know.
That would make sense. He was playing a lot of those.
Yeah, with Sullivan, I think. And they all stopped to talk to Spugnor, the bugbear merchant.
Kinrob, I think.
Kinrob. Or no, wait, maybe they were talking to some kids. Like, I think they had just finished with Spugnor. Not Spugnor, Kinrob. I don't know where this name is coming from. They finished, yeah, I don't know exactly what it was, but they were either talking to Kinrob or these kids who are fishing. And they wanted to, like, sell off this caterpillar. And I don't know why, like, what was special about this caterpillar, but, like, people like you or, like, other people were joking how it was, like super dark and, like, demonic, and, like, someone called it the Satan caterpillar. And so I was like, oh, that's something weird, like, Satan and a caterpillar. Like, a caterpillar is just so, like, just cute and unassuming, and, you know, Satan is Satan, so it just seemed like a fun thing to squish together, and yeah, that's what came out of it.
And then it became kind of a lore thing after that. Yeah, I think the story was I kept showing these kids that were like digging for worms, or like worms like were, you know, rainfall would happen and these worms would burrow up, and it was I was sort of building up to like the point when like a big purple worm or whatever was going to show up at one point. I don't know if I ever did that, but that was where it was supposed to be leading, was one day the big worm was going to come up. But yeah, I think there was something going on between those kids and Kinrob, like they were competing for like fishing bait or something. And
that's what it was.
I don't know if Kinrob, like, I mean, the character was bullshitting with whoever he was talking to, like, my worms are the best, like the fish will just like fly into the boat if you have this, like it's so enticing or whatever. And I think it was maybe Casey from the chat like gave it. And yeah, you drew
that sounds about right.
And then it became a thing. It became a real thing. So, this next one was from Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, which was one of the... I had a lot of fun running that campaign because it was a tournament module, so there's really not much going on with it in terms of a story. And so I had kind of concocted this story that maybe the ship that crashed, you know, the cave, the metallic cave that the adventurers are digging into, was some kind of a luxury cruise spaceship. And so I'd asked Jenna, there was this android character that we kind of cooked up, and it became like a NPC that was kind of following, I think, Isaac's character around, Jarl.
Yeah, his forever girl.
His forever girl. And she would just laugh at everything that he said and just say, "You're so darling. Let's go to the arcade," or "Buy me a drink." She was always trying to ask him to get money.
To buy things for
buy things, spend money. And so I'd asked Jenna to cook up some imagery, and we definitely were going with a little bit of like a Fallout theme.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about, like, yeah, what this is clearly like a 50s 60s, like,
yeah, I don't remember if it's like if you requested it or why 50 stuck out to me. I'm not sure. When was Barrier Peaks again? Like, when was that going on? Do you remember?
Oh, I think it was like early 2020, maybe.
Okay. So I'm trying to think. Maybe I was like, when I was like wrapping stuff up in college, like maybe like I was learning like a later American history like class or something like that, and it does kind of coincide with like student teaching, but I wasn't doing like stuff that were like 50s themed quite yet, so maybe it was from something else. I don't remember what like inspired it, but I think maybe kind of like more of like a lot of the stuff in the cruise was like retro-y, and maybe that's why I kind of, and probably the Fallout is probably now that you mentioned that, it's probably what it was. So I just tried to look up a lot of like stereotypical housewife like magazine, like homekeeping magazines, and tried to tried to go with that. But I always had trouble with the hair. The hair was like its own beast. I don't know why.
Well, this was the flesh. I think I went back and forth on whether he was an android that actually like had flesh, like a fleshy outside, or if she just was straight up like metallic. I don't really remember which way we went with it, but we had both art.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That looks like you just took like the one and maybe swapped out some layers and gave it the.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I was like, oh, I mean, they still look the same, just one will look a little metallic. So I was like, that shouldn't be too hard. And so, I was like, why not both? And handed that over.
Now, explain this, because I don't think we've ever seen this, but it relates to what we were just talking about.
That's true. So in the community campaign for Barrier Peaks, Isaac was playing similar to what I did with Pico. I think you were much more forgiving with me with letting my grung in and play. Isaac's character, when he was first starting out, and that he also kind of brought into the community campaign, was an Aarakocra monk, so like a bird folk. And when we were first starting out, and I made this like before we even like met you guys or even knew of you guys. So this was what Jarl originally looked like. So when he was a bird folk. But Aarakocra fly, and that's usually not something you want to that people don't usually want to deal with in like a starting adventure. So I don't know if like you asked him or if he was like, I don't feel comfortable like bringing in a flying character, I'm just going to change it. Like, I don't know what happened with the change there. So he changed it to like an elf or a half elf, I think. And so, but throughout the community campaign, he would keep referring. He was like, guys, like, I wasn't always this way. I used to be a bird. And like, I don't think anyone believed him, but that is originally what he looked like.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned this character too. This was Sullivan.
Yeah, Sullivan. I think Daw wanted or needed some character art, and I was in one of those spaces where I really, really wanted to draw something, but I didn't know what. And you'll probably hear this a lot if you jump into Gen 2, is if I'm being like, I don't know what to draw, and then Isaac and Dawson will both be like, she doesn't know what to draw, this is your chance, get your character made. And so I made his character. So he described what he wanted for Sullivan, and I drew it up. So it was like a quick little sketch. I was like, I just wanted to like get something on the canvas, and like, so it's not as like kind of nice and polished, but sometimes I like to switch back and forth between that, because a more sketchy look is just sometimes nice to look at.
And we have a couple of things that I was able to find that Cliff did for various community campaigns. So this one is Tabaxi named Drifting Rain. And was it a Tabaxi? I think it wasn't exactly a Tabaxi.
I thought it was.
Maybe it was. There are a lot of things with Isle of Dread that I changed, so I can't remember, because Tabaxi weren't really a thing in my Stara. But there was some catfolk type of things that were more bulky. So I can't remember if I like made Tabaxi and they were more lion-like, if I made them separate things with their own. I don't remember.
Wasn't there a couple of different factions of the cat people or something?
There might have been. Basically, there was like a peninsula at the southeast part of the isle that had like these 7 villages, and they kind of like all came together to kind of build a wall to protect themselves from all the dinosaurs and whatnot. And they were all distinct like clans with their own whatever. Anyway, Drifting Rain was one of the islanders, lived in one of those villages, and was like the one character that came back with everyone. The conceit of Isle of Dread was they were kind of shipwrecked there. They didn't really. They were there for a purpose, but we kicked the ladder out from underneath them and kind of made them shipwrecked until they completed their task. But eventually they were able to get a boat ride home, and Drifting Rain, we had sort of that very curious cat folk that went back with them just to have like a thing from the Isle of Dread campaign into Lost City. I think Lost City is where Drifting Rain eventually kind of followed along with. But... yeah,
it was. He was with Kinrob in like the cart before the sandstorm shipwrecked us into the Lost City.
They had kind of a silly buddy comedy thing going on where they were bros. So this was a pretty cool, and I think one of your first maybe color pieces that you did for any of the 20-side stuff as far as character art.
Yeah, it could have been. I don't really do a lot of color, but I'm going to try to do more.
This is one that you did real last second for me. I don't know why. I just woke up one morning and I was like, you know what Island of Dread needs is a palm tree treant. And so like I had this idea of this jungle weed character, and I'd asked you like, I don't know. I don't think he really actually appeared in that many episodes or sessions, but I just really wanted some kind of an image, and you whipped this together pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it wasn't much more than an hour before you went on air or something like that.
Yeah, I think
before I seen your email anyway or something like that.
So he was our singing jovial treant from Isle of Dread. And then this one was Zelagar, who was in many ways sort of the main villain, I guess, of that whole stretch of modules from Keep on the Borderlands to Isle of Dread, sort of. Like his actions are kind of what caused them to go there, and then he came back around in Barrier Peaks, and so he is the wizard from Into the Unknown, which is part of the Borderlands module. And in that module, there's like the story of like this warrior and this wizard, and they're kind of like these legendary folk that adventurers hold in sort of like a legendary mythical state. But I always thought in reading the stories about them that they kind of sounded like lunatics, because they sort of amassed like all this power in the area and like built a little stronghold for themselves, and it seemed like just wiped out a lot of like goblinoids and such, and in sort of a, I always thought of him as kind of like a Christopher Columbus type of character, where, you know, there's maybe like time has like done something to like rejuvenate his image, but really he was a terrible person that did bad things. And so that was Zelagar, because eventually we realized like, yeah, he was terrible. And he was also the one that was manipulating Winston's character, who was kind of our villain in the first community campaign, making him think he was doing all these things for Vecna when really he was just helping Zelagar to get freed from a magical book that he was stuck in. And then we had a session where this image came in handy, because we did a Kids on Brooms, I think it was, where I had them in like some kind of a simulation, like a shared psychosis kind of thing, as a result of the mind flayers, and they all thought they were students in a magical school. And there were all these Zelagar clones that the mind flayers were making, and so in the psychosis, they're the only human that they really knew were Zelagar, because they'd interacted with him before, and so there were all these Zelagars like claiming they were the real one. So good image of a crazy wizard. Now this is a pretty fun one. This is a Temple of Elemental Evil action shot.
Uh-huh. Went from like nice, crazy Zeligar to
Bam.
damn, this. It's not at all what I was expecting.
So I believe the story of this one is was it a random encounter? I think it was a random encounter.
Yeah, it was a random encounter.
So
they were caught by surprise. I remember that.
Very much caught by surprise. So if you haven't seen one of our D&D streams before, whenever we're playing, we have like this, EXP store system where if you're watching or you cheer bits or subscribe, you earn these points and you can redeem them in this store that we have, and you can redeem things like rerolls and wandering monsters. So somebody had redeemed a wandering monster, I believe is what it was. And I don't know how the comment came up, but this is Udo, who's Ryan Garthok's fighter. And I think he just was like positing the question. He was like, well, I think it was something about like, were you wearing armor? And he's like, I don't think I'm wearing anything at all. I'm pretty sure Udo sleeps naked. So I'm probably just out there in my birthday suit fighting this thing. And unbeknownst to us, Jenna was going to recreate that moment, which is pretty sweet.
It was a really fun image.
I like Zilloff's over here too, apparently.
I don't remember why Zilloff was there too. Like if he mentioned something like oh yeah, Zilloff probably too, or like whatever. But it was because he was reacting in some. Oh yeah, he was reacting as if he didn't have anything on either. So I just imagined him like just holding on to the loot, kicking everything off. So that was a lot of fun.
This next one is the closest you're gonna get to anything that I touched as far as art, but this was a piece that Cliff did, a coloring page that we put out on our Patreon. I don't know if there was something we were celebrating, or we were doing some like community streams where it was like coffee and conversation and like creating things. I don't know. We never really came up with a format exactly for it, but he had done this up, and this was a scene from Lost City where I don't remember exactly all of these characters. I know this was, I think, supposed to be Professor. And there was definitely like a combat where
there was a lot of goblinoids in the Lost City.
Yeah, maybe it was the Goblin Caves at some point. I don't really remember exactly what the adventure was, but yeah, there was a scene that we had put together, that Cliff had put together as a... Oh, is Chris Jones the hobgoblin in the back? Or... Oh, yeah, that's right. The trial, there was the three clans that claim the Lost City that were kind of fighting. They all had like different trials, and there was like a series of adventures that we did with that. So very cool. Do you have anything to say about this one?
Wasn't there the orcs or trolls or something? I can't remember. Weren't they controlling the smaller hobgoblins or goblins?
Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe this troll had something to do with them. I'm not exactly sure if he was just a part of the trial itself, or I don't really remember. So many games, it's hard to remember. But here's one that you did for me when I popped into the Eberron game there with them on Monday nights.
I just realized too, I don't think I ever finished it. Like I forgot to put the runes on the sword.
Well, that's okay, because I was only in that game for like 2 sessions.
Okay.
So, yeah, this was a character that I had asked you to do. I had this idea of this like kind of ridiculous like anime style character who had, there's always like a cloud or something that has like oversized buster sword, has like kind of a little bit of a, I don't know, sort of edgelord little backstory. So
Yeah.
he was like kind of possessed by the spirit of that sword and was running around trying to find a way to break that curse.
That's right. I remember it was like very brief with that character, but I remember thinking like the idea behind it was super cool. And I also really enjoyed, like, I don't know why, like the hilt specifically I really liked with like the big old evil smile on him, but I remember that like I really enjoyed making.
And these are some of Cliff's illustrations of the characters from that Eberron campaign. I think this is B. I think this is the character that Marine plays on that one.
Yes. She was a little bit of orc blood. She had a slight greenish tint to her skin.
This one was Elise. I think this is this Lauren's character?
Yes. She was, what was she?
That's okay. I'm putting you on the spot. I didn't review any of these with these guys before we started. Is it Lyra? I think this is Robin's character.
I don't.
Oh,
she
right.
was a Alistar, I believe.
This one?
Yes.
Lyra? Yep. So this is one I'm not sure on, so I'll have to pass this to Jenna to talk about.
So this was when I started actually playing in games, like when I very, very early on. And well, Pico was like kind of my first character, but like not really, like my first community game campaign character. My first ever character was for like a pre-Tyranny of Dragons game with Casey, where it was kind of like the setup to lead into that, like to kind of create some history in Greenest where you kind of start. And I was playing a Firbolg druid, surprise, a druid, and we had a whole bunch of characters, and one of them was Ed's character Mitchell, and he was a wizard. Yeah, a wizard, and his familiar was a little sparrow. And the idea behind Mitchell is that he is a very scrawny, shy, keeps to himself, kind of nervous wreck of like a student. And so he never Mitchell himself never directly did anything. It was always this sparrow. But his familiar was weirdly good at always just landing shocking grasp. It was super reliable. I don't know why. And I don't remember the name of the sparrow, unfortunately, but for part of the adventure it's okay, we finished this festival and now we're going up into the mountain because there's orcs there, or there was something else up there that we needed to take care of, but we were being attacked by orcs. And again, we were just laughing because here's all these this massive group of very murderous orcs who are trying to kill us, and this teeny tiny sparrow with his little lightning claws coming around and swooping and taking them out, or making it so they can't take reactions. And I think later on Ed even used it in Tyranny, where there's legends of this thunderbird that would strike fear in the clans, and it was actually just a tiny sparrow.
Kind of a Pokemon almost of
yeah, totally.
that campaign. I think this is another Tyranny character. Maybe this is another one of Marines, I think, right?
Yeah, this is Anrin. Anrin was Marine's character, Tyranny, so there was that kind of before things, and this is more, Anrin was for when we were actually in the Tyranny of Dragons campaign setting. And she reached out to me one day. I think I haven't really I was still new, so I hadn't really got a chance to talk with too many people, and I guess somehow Maureen found out I liked to draw and was like, "Hey, want to draw a barbarian?" I was like, "Okay." So I drew a barbarian.
So I think probably, you know, you're so good at what you do that you know, you do one of these, and then other people like find out about it, right? And
Yeah.
like they'll ask like, who did that? It's so awesome, and then your name would come up a lot. Like, do you ever I guess, like, do you ever wish like people didn't know that because you're getting so many requests to do things, or do you feel like you're able to put up that boundary when you need to say like, I just don't have the time to do that right now?
Yeah, like I used to not be very good at it, but I'm usually pretty good if I know if I'm in one of those like kind of art droughts where I'm like, there's really like I just can't get anything on a paper and think it looks good, like I'll just be like, if there's no time frame on it, I'll get to it eventually, but like I just can't do it now, or just like something like you get busy or something and you just like, so I've gotten better with it, but it's nice because it's like, oh, like people enjoy it, because a lot of the times I'm just doing this for fun. Like only very recently and still very rarely like I'll take like commissions here and there. Like I don't really do anything like I don't have social media, so it's like I don't really post them anywhere, so it's really only 20 size that gets to see that gets to see it. Like I don't like reach out to too many places, so it's cool when I do get it. So it's the times I do get it, it's pretty nice, but like because I'm also like not really sharing it a whole bunch, like it kind of it kind of self-regulates itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. This next one is Chiquito.
Yeah. Finally, my obsession with Druid, I was like, hey Ike, you should like totally play a Druid. Come on, like give it a try. Like you'll never go back once you try. Like give it a try. He's like, okay. So, and I don't know why he picked Warforged, but the idea of like a Warforged and a Druid just seemed like a lot of fun and really funny. And then he ended up having like throughout the campaigns, he'd be like, hey, can you like update his token, because he drew this angry face on him, or like, hey, he's wearing this disguise, can you draw him with this disguise? So like I have so many Chiquito tokens from like when I started it, and with a lot of my stuff it's like I always start it, but sometimes a lot of the times I never really finish. Like I have to be like on a real roll to like finish it. So like I think this one, like I got halfway done and I was like, it's a good place to stop. And it worked out because usually all you need is a token. Oh, I'm sorry, Cliff, what was that?
Do you do that face and then on in a computer program with layers so you can click off the different expressions?
Yeah, it was really handy because God, he had so many expressions. He's like, I'm gonna take out this piece of charcoal and draw a surprised face over my eyes. I'm like, oh, that's a new one. So just add more tokens. It was a lot of fun though.
These are some characters that Cliff drew for the Descent into Avernus crew. So Descent into Avernus was a campaign that I ran, I don't know exactly when, but right when the book came out, whenever that was, and I wanted to start the campaign the day that the book came out, because I had this idea that if I did that, I might be able to generate some YouTube views in a more timely manner before there was just a flood of videos out there. And so somehow we did that, and the result, of course, some people know, is that we spent a lot of time in a park dealing with a cat in a tree because I hadn't read enough of the module really to feel comfortable taking them too far. But these are 4 characters that Cliff did. I believe from left to right, top to bottom, we have Laurel. I think Evangeline, that was Lauren's character. Bryn and Aplos. And definitely one of my. It was like one of those campaigns where I didn't really like the source material all that well, but I had such a good group that it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I see. Yeah, Casey says best intro ever. Yeah, I think you did these in this way, Cliff, but maybe you added like more definition later, because I feel like there's another version or another set of these images somewhere.
I'm not sure. There may be. I might have wanted to add some more definition to the color.
So, with you had kind of mentioned, Cliff. You don't do a lot of work necessarily with color all the time. You do a lot more kind of ink drawings and things like that. Have you noticed that over time your style has changed or evolved?
Yeah, if you look at earlier stuff that I've done, you'd probably see a change in it. Although my line work has, I think, stayed fairly steady, but in recent years I've made it a point to try and add more shadowing and work with the to add more definition, to more depth to the character rather than have it so open. But if I'm going to add color to it, then I might keep it more open and do the shadow work with the color. I've been doing more halftone work for Goodman Games, whereas a few years back I just did the line work.
Awesome. Sounds like you got a hungry cat there.
Yeah,
Thank you for the follow there, Better Off Dead. Appreciate that. Hello, kitty. Here are just a couple more that Cliff did. This was from our Out of the Abyss campaign. I don't think you did all, or maybe you did do more of the characters than I remember, but I was only able to find two, and this was my Vic Valentine character. I think basically, what did I tell you? I basically said I need this like really hipster looking guy with like a gnarly like harp type of tattoo, big gauged ears and whatnot. And so this is probably one of my favorite characters of mine that you've drawn.
The vest is like awesome. Like I love all the patterns in the vest.
Yeah, that added a little extra time to try and add that pattern on there. Those are whenever you add patterns like that, it's always fairly time consuming, but it makes the final product kind of look neat. Yeah,
definitely. This was Drazzle. This was Scott's lizard folk. I think he was a druid. I'm pretty sure he was a druid. The only thing we're missing is that pretty soon after we started the campaign, he had a little soup bowl that he was always wearing as a hat. Now this is something that Jenna, you did for me. I think it was one of our charity games. I want to say it was an Extra Life game. Maybe it was like the third year of Extra Life.
I think so. I don't remember for which charity event it was, but I remember it was we were doing like a shortened version of Castle Amber.
Yeah, we did Castle Amber. It was the only original Adventures Reincarnated book that we didn't do as a community campaign. Just did it as like a 12-hour stream.
Yeah.
And, both of you have done numerous graphics for the channel in terms of overlays or starting soon screens and things like that. And it was actually this one. I loved this one because I don't know if I told you to do the campfire thing or if you did that. But
I think I did it because I remember I did this initially because I felt bad because I was going to be late. Like I had to drive my sister and my dad. They were going to do a hiking trip on Catalina, and the drop off time was exactly when we were supposed to start as well. And I was like, I feel so guilty. I'm going to make something cool. So I tried to make. I was like, here, like use this to start off, and that's how it started.
Yeah, this I don't know, the imagery of like all these characters around campfire. I'm gonna again say that there's an image from Chrono Trigger that actually is very like I think it was like in the little handbook or the little used to be when you bought physical games, you'd get a little book that you'd read in the car
books.
And you'd look at the pictures and learn something about the game before, you know, that 10-minute ride home. There's an image in there of all those characters. It's a very eclectic looking group because there's the robot character, there's the frog character, there's the human characters, and they're all sitting around a campfire. And so that's what this always reminded me of. And so when we came around to doing Wild Beyond the Witchlight, I asked you to kind of recreate that feel yet again, but that this time with the Witchlight characters. This one is our starting soon screen basically for Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
That's right. That one was a lot of fun. It was cool. I like the carnival theme. That was fun when you were at, when you asked for the overlay for that. I had fun figuring that one out.
We're almost at the end of that one. Just a couple more streams. So if you've been watching Wild Beyond the Witchlight, but probably want to check out the next couple of Tuesdays. We start that one at 7:30 if you want to follow along. This is another Wild Beyond the Witchlight character that I needed done. This one's probably a good example of like me not giving maybe enough detail for the art because I don't think I gave the context maybe of the character, and thus we ended up with a kind of sinister looking toy rabbit. And if you know who this character, this is Pincushion, who is a little doll that basically has a necklace around its neck that has a little coffin attached to it that has the ashes of Arlo's adopted son in it. And so the idea is that that's almost like a little bit of like an artifact, like this, maybe there's like some latent spiritual energy or something attached to that, and it's being used to like animate this doll who isn't really like a reincarnation of the kid or whatever, but it's just animated because of it, and it's supposed to be a little bit of a maybe bittersweet character that's kind of tagging along with Arlo and just kind of serves as a reminder of his son. But yeah, this was like the first image, and then I think I asked you to do it again because I wanted to make sure that the coffin was in there. And then we got this one, who maybe looks a little less sinister, but has sort of almost like a Dennis the Menace style feel to him. And maybe I should have leaned into that and made him a little bit more like a terror to Mr. Wilson. But definitely very cool picture here. Do you have any commentary to add on Pincushion?
He was a challenge. I was trying to add, more character to his look, so get that kind of a creepy feeling of a toy coming to life.
Yeah. So, Wild Beyond the Witch, I guess this is maybe something for Jenna, because Jenna, you did all of the art for each of the characters, I believe.
I think almost all of them. I did for me, Ike, and Joe, and for the characters Shion and Maple. They kind of already had art. I don't know if for Maple's character if he used the picture from like the overlay. I don't remember if he used it or not. I don't think so. I'll have to look back because I don't actually remember. But I think I did like most of them, not all of them though.
Well, at the very least, you did them for that starting soon, sort of,
Yeah.
even if their profile was to the back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she's watching, but Lindsay did some art of some of those same characters. I think, you know, kind of inspired by, I'm going to guess, like the models that you did, which I think is very cool. When you're a small streamer, you just appreciate if you got one person watching. When you got one person that's then also like creating some image, they're watching along, and then they like take the time to like draw those characters. That's even more of an honor, I guess. And so I don't know if that's how you feel about these, but these are some that Lindsay, who plays in the community campaign, did of some of our Witchlight characters. There's a Lim, which is a very awesome depiction of Lim. I think.
Like they got the energy like so right. Like I was so stoked when I saw these. I was like super, like it still makes me excited when I see them because it feels great to have someone else do some art of like whatever you make.
Yeah. This one was Arlo, played by Joe E. This one's Maple, played by Chris. This is, I mean, this one with Lim is pretty good, but this might be my favorite just because she nailed the talking about the absurd tools. So this is Vish, Artificer that Isaac plays. Always talking about the tools that look sort of like this, but it's not really. It's actually this. And then
I love these so much.
Shion, played by Kim. Let's see. Now these next two are some of yours, Jenna, but I have no idea if there's a D&D context or if they're things that you just did. So you'll have to tell us the story or the inspiration behind them.
Yeah, we'll find out because I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh yeah, those not really a D&D context. I think I was just goofing around in Gen 2. So these were just things that I were making off to the side. So nothing directly linked to anything on 20 sides, but besides that, I was just hanging out in the chat when I was making it.
It's definitely very. It almost has like a Zelda, like Wind Waker kind of feel to it, or you know, the vibrancy of the colors and like the natural landscape attached to. You know, I'm expecting like that symbol there to like pull away, and there's like a doorway or a gateway into some kind of like, you know, dungeon where you gotta go grab a piece of the Triforce.
Totally, that makes sense. I love the Zelda series, so that feels good that you see that.
Maybe my Wind Waker piece comes from this one.
You have to answer the riddle or question before you answer. Enter.
Totally.
So how about? Oh, go ahead.
This is. Oh yeah, no, you're good. Same idea. I think I was in the 20 sides chat when I was when I started sketching this out or something, like somewhere along the way I was just like in Gen 2, never Gen 1, always Gen 2. I was just kind of there while I was making it, and so I wasn't sure exactly what you wanted for the art talk, so I think I just threw in anything that I was like, I'm pretty sure I worked on 20 sides with these, so then I just like threw it in.
Well, we need to design a module around this, and I am envious of your creative energy with no real purpose other than your own enjoyment and to create something. Because like, even when I've got a task ahead of me and it's got a deadline and everything, like, it's still hard to muster up the creative energy. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
Now this is one that I had you do for the kind of retro video game program. I was wanting something so that I didn't have to have my camera on 100% of the time, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to hide behind a persona once in a while when I was playing those video games rather than just talking as myself. So you helped me create this Cephalosk character.
Yeah. I remember I was actually like at your house when you asked us to do that because we were there for GameHoleCon and you mentioned that.
Oh, that is right. That is.
Uh-huh.
We were kind of brainstorming it, and then I think we were like at GameHoleCon. We walked past somebody was selling these little like chibi,
Yeah.
like Cthulhu things, and I was like, "That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. That's what it should look like."
Yeah, I remember I was asking the guys like, do you mind if I like take a picture if that's okay? And then like I use that to help make this. That's right. That was a lot of fun. I've been thinking recently like I want to redraw it because I gave Cephalosk this really mean lean. Like he's definitely kind of like leaning into the side there, so I kind of want to go back and give it another try. But Cephalosk's fun, especially now like same thing, like it's always hard to like draw a character when you don't like have a sense of them yet, like same with Yaz. Like I usually like I don't get like a good like drawing of a character done until like I kind of have a better sense of like who they are, and now I have a better sense of Cephalosk, so I feel like I would do better if I gave it another try.
I almost came up with like a game or something to see if you know, like a scorecard of like, can you name all these characters and what campaign they're from? Would you be able to do it, Cliff?
No.
I don't know that I could either, but I think from left... Go ahead.
When you were talking about those two characters, like your character, the number 1 and the number 15, where you couldn't figure out the other characters, I believe 16, 17, and 18 might have been from that game as well.
No,
I feel like 16 was like definitely involved because
he was out of the abyss. Yeah.
Okay, because just something about him stands out.
Yeah, that was Zom. He was played by I'm blanking on the name, but I remember Zom. He was an Asimar. Forget what class now too. I want to say fighter. But I'm pretty sure number 2 is Klaus Kringle, who was from the original, played by Tommy. I don't know why we have that image because I didn't really show a lot of like art or character art or anything like back then when we were first starting out, but he like the character had gone through this like transformation. He ended up with like this cursed ring that was and it was perfect because the ring was sort of, he came up with this character named Klaus Kringle, and then of course, like not planned by me, he ended up with this ring that was slowly turning him into like an ice creature. So I think that's where that one came. One of the other early campaigns that's on here is number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7. Those are all when I was trying to get affiliate for the channel. That was when I wanted to do a campaign that wasn't strictly D&D, and so we did a DCC Shutter Mountains campaign. Yeah, and that was the first time we were streaming twice a week. And so those were the characters that survived the funnel. And
if you remember, there were a couple of those characters when I drew when I drew an illustration for Goodman Games in that book. There were a couple of those characters that I kind of made look like them for that fight scene.
Yeah, I think I might have that coming up here. But yeah, so an example of the stuff that we do on 20 sides potentially might end up in one of Cliff's illustrations that he does for publication because he needs inspiration. There are some characters on here. Number 12 was a character that I played in our Waterdeep Dragon Heist game. Doc Bloom, I think he was, kind of like a
like Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And oh, I guess we did have some character art from some of the original stuff, because number 21 is Reggie. Number 28 was Joe's character. I don't remember his name. He was a Githyanki from our Planescape game. I think 27, is Klaus. So that 27 is pre-cursed Ring of Winter, and number 2 is what he turned into once he started having the ring transformations happening. And we don't talk about our Curse of Strahd game that we did too much, but there are some illustrations on there from that game as well. Number 17 was Marine's character. I think her name was Melania. 18 was Musha. That was played by Joe E. Had kind of the Phantom of the Opera mask going on. I think 19 was Mortimer. That was played by Paul. 20 was Maror. That was Brett. If anyone remembers Brett. And 26 was Luther, who was I think that was Winston's first game on the channel. Was playing him.
That was a fun character to do.
Which one?
26 there.
Oh, yeah, Winston with that hat. I think he asked for that hat, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how much a description I got for the hat, but I did like putting that hat on.
We're running low on time, so I'm going to zip through just a few more here. This is just another one of, not really a 20 sides necessarily, but as Cliff had mentioned earlier, does a lot of work for Goodman Games, and maybe starting soon going to be doing some commissions for Necrotic Gnome?
Perhaps.
So
yeah,
kind of some of these old school game systems. You often see a lot of the same artists that are doing things for like Old School Essentials and Goodman Games and whatnot. And so pretty cool that that you're doing some of these pieces, because they definitely fit with the aesthetic of, and are unique, a little bit different than what some of those other artists are putting into those books. There's Guy LaBelle. I think I specifically asked for a Gaston influenced fighter looking character.
Yeah, and that's why I chose that character of mine to be your toady then. So
definitely fun to play a character that was a total asshole that I then tried to make enduring, or like tried to have him learn lessons about friendship along the way. I think this is the one that you were talking about, something that you did for one of the Shutter Mountains, or maybe not.
Yeah, that was my preliminary sketch. That wasn't the final, but.
Now, here is some Gen 2 shenanigans.
Did you pull this one? Because I don't even remember adding this to the.
I found this one. Yeah,
you found this one. Okay. I remember I was like thinking about adding it, and I was like, I don't know. And so I think I skipped over it. I'm glad you found it though. Yeah, that's Chris Jones.
Bad boy of the internet.
Yeah, bad boy of the internet. I think I just did this for fun, because we're always teasing him how he says he's gonna paint orcs for Orktober, and then he never does, and how he has a bunch of uncompleted orcs. So, and then one time he was in Gen 2 and he was showing us one of the minis that he did, and he's like, look at that orc booty, look at it, and he's just like holding it up to the camera. So I drew a picture of him with the orc booty.
So you want to explain this one?
I don't know how it started, but everyone was doing drawings of each other. So it was like everyone would draw a picture of someone else and then be like, okay, so who is this? And I don't think very subtly goes like, hey Jenna, who do you think this is? And he shows it to me, and I'm like, gee, I don't know, is it me? And so, like, as a joke, I went and like drew it myself, but like I drew me as like he drew me, and that's how it came out of it.
So, kind of going back to talking about 3D modeling and such, This is the original 20 Sides to Every Story logo, which Cliff did.
Oh, wow. That looks really good.
Yeah, that was done in Blender as well.
Back when this was the highest quality production piece we had, was everything else looked bad, but we had at least this 3D little logo. And then finally, maybe one of the most recent pieces of art that has done is this piece that I asked Jenna to do, to put on a t-shirt to kind of commemorate our 5 years. So I got mine in the mail just a couple days ago.
Nice. I'm still waiting on mine. I was hoping to wear it for this, but at least I have it on my notebook. So I did get some 5-year merch.
Got it as a little sticker too. It so far I've been impressed with the quality of all the things that the stories put out with this on it. So if you want to get one of these, you can do that in the Teespring store. Put the link there in the chat. I think it's probably one of the coolest like merch things that we have on there. It's so cool. I'm
gonna have to get one of those stickers. Like, the sticker turned out really nice.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm gonna slap it on, but probably on my DM screen that I take with me to the conventions, because it'd be a good spot for it. But I guess just a quick explanation about the characters here that I had Jenna put on here was the one on the far left there is Cinnamon, who was a character born from a joke in one of the early streams. It was a game that Paul had run. I think it was called Clash of Shields, and Robin. There was some joke. It was like we were like doing a perception check or something at this door, and I think like Robin had asked like, "What do I hear on the other side of the door?" And Paul responded with cinnamon or something, and then everyone like paused because they're like, "What?" And then out of like there's like this long pause, and then out of nowhere, Robin's like, "Hi guys, I'm Cinnamon." So it was just like this funny moment, and then like the I don't know how much longer after that she made a character for the community campaign named Cinnamon, the tiefling, and she like created a character out of that joke, and so she was a very beloved character from the community campaign.
That's awesome.
I guess to the right we have Cephalosk, who was a character in the Expedition to the Barrier Peaks campaign. He was like the friendly mind flayer, I guess, or as friendly as you could get. He just wanted all the other mind flayers to go away so he could kind of be by himself. So he kind of helped the party in a way, get rid of his brethren. And now he apparently flies around in the astral sea with his spaceship, playing video games. And enjoying his solace, and he gets annoyed when Roadkiller shows up in the stream. And then in the middle we have Butterby, who's for sure the 20 Sides to Every Story mascot.
Oh, totally.
Jenna, I don't know. Do you know? Could you tell us the story of the origins of Butterby?
I don't remember the names very well, but you were playing.
I was playing Eye of the Beholder. It was like,
yeah,
it's like this old retro. It was like a PC game from like the MS-DOS days, where you can go north, east, west, or south, and like you have all your characters on the right, and you just point and click, kind of moving through a dungeon.
Yeah, point and click combat. Like I remember like you frantically like going back and forth, like clicking all the tokens and then clicking on the monster. And I remember a lot of that. And I don't remember who started, if it was you or Ike, but like, and like, I don't know who named the character this, but like either one of you guys like started to give him this voice, and it just like really stuck. And I don't know, Butterby's great. Like I remember you had him on for a trivia show one time too.
Which you made that. You made the little avatar for that. So
I had a lot of fun with that. Like that was interesting. I had to go on to like apparent like you can make your own stuff for like Snapchat filters, and so I made like a Snapchat filter for Butterbee's face, and technically you can download it too and mess with it if you type in Butterbee or Dwarf. I don't remember which one, but I think you could actually find it and like use it too. So that was fun.
Well, I think that's probably just about all the time we have here tonight for 20 Sides to Every Story in this art stream. I thought this was a lot of fun. There's definitely like some good memories tied up in all the art that you guys put together.
Honestly, I was impressed how much I remembered because I have such a bad memory, but like seeing all the stuff helps like bring back all like the little bits and pieces. So this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this.
Well, I don't think I don't think your memory was as bad as mine, but it makes me feel better if someone else is having a hard time remembering something too.
Oh, totally. Thank you, Alex, for like setting all this up. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for creating all this stuff and adding something to the aesthetic. You know, you both have very different styles, but like I think there's something kind of fun in that. You know, we've got these different looks or these different styles that kind of come together. Depending on what type of character maybe someone's looking for or what it is. Like this T-shirt was like a perfect thing for you, Jenna, to do, because you're going to bring in like all that vibrancy and that color, and it's just going to create something that really pops and looks beautiful. And Cliff, some of those like the Vic character, like that was like spot on, like it was perfect. And I think the caricatures are super fun that you're doing for the people on the channel. And so just thanks to both of you for all of those little pieces that you come up with, because they really add something special to the channel. So with that said, if you haven't joined the Discord yet, please do so. People are always, not just Cliff and Jenna, but other people are always creating things too, and posting them in our art channel in the Discord. So that's a great place to come and check out what other people are doing, and maybe post something of your own if you're wanting to share some of the creations that you've made. Well, I think that's going to be it for us here tonight. Thanks everyone in the chat for watching. This was a lot of fun. This is just another piece to our celebrating 5 years of 20 Sides. Really appreciate all of you being a part of our community, participating in the games, DMing, chatting, just talking, and being a part of the community, because all of that kind of comes together to make this a very special thing. And so thanks to all of you for keeping us around for 5 years. So I'm going to throw a raid, I think. We're going to push out a raid maybe over to... let's throw a raid to just someone random and see what they're up to.
What a gamble.
Gonna be a gamble. I have no idea what we're popping into, but I'm gonna just trust the recommended channels and see where we go. So we're gonna throw a raid out there. Thanks everybody. We will see you all soon.
Thank you.